Right. Who's, good.
May. Councilwoman Estimate Irvin.
Present.
Councilman Galvin.
Here.
Vice Mayor Keys.
Here.
Mayor Bieneme. Mayor, you have a quorum to proceed.
Thank you very much. Let please rise for the invocation, followed by the pledge of allegiance with Sergeant Nelson Perez for the pledge of allegiance, and we're going to have invocation first with Major Bunson. Commander, right?
I'll take Major.
Thank you very much.
Let us all bow. Father God in heaven, once again, we approach your throne of grace humbly, giving thanks for life, health, and strength. We thank you for all blessings that we know come from you and you alone. We ask your blessings upon these proceedings as we carry out the city's business. We hope and we pray that everything that is said and done in this building tonight will be for the upbuilding and the strengthening of this great institution, the great city of North Miami. And this is our humble prayer as we all say, amen.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. If you please put your right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Mr. Manager, do we have any addition, deletion, or amendment or deferral to the agenda?
None at this time, sir.
Thank you very much. Now, special presentations.
Mayor, for the record, I just want to advise you all that that what is being entered into the record is a presentation or a booklet by Resilient 305, which has been placed on each of your seats. And there
Okay.
will be an extra copy with me here for the public to review, should they choose.
Thank you very much. Go
Good
ahead.
evening, Mayor, Councilman. It's great to be here this evening. My name's Jane Gilbert. I'm the Chief Resilience Officer for the City of Miami. And I'm here tonight to share with you update or report on the Resilient 305 strategy, which your mayor has already signed up to be a part of. But I want to give you a little briefing and what does it really mean for North Miami? How can it benefit North Miami? This strategy was developed in partnership with the Rockefeller Foundation's 100 Resilient Cities. And the way they define urban resilience is much broader than just climate change. Climate change is a certain factor that's increasing shocks and stresses to cities globally, but also just our increased density, globalization, technology makes cities accumulators of both risks, but also they're drivers of change, and certainly North Miami's right here in the mix of it. So the way they define urban resilience is the capacity for individuals, businesses, organizations, cities, all entities within your community to be able to adapt and grow and thrive in the face of increasing shocks and stresses facing them. We're going to have changes, whether it's innovations and disruption in our economy, or it's a hurricane, or it's just slow-moving sea level rise. We're going to have changes in our community. How do we adapt and thrive in the face of that? So who are we? The strategy was developed with support from Rockefeller by Miami-Dade County, Miami, and Miami Beach. But really, the whole strategy was developed with all the municipalities and many other partners in mind. In fact, there are over 20 different organizations leading actions in this strategy. And the Miami Foundation also has contributed throughout the process. We started this 3 years ago. The first phase was really outreaching to all geographies of the community, demographics of the community, and really collecting what are people's top concerns about top shocks, acute events like a hurricane or a Zika or active shooter event or cyber terrorism, and the chronic stresses that weaken the fabric of our community and make us less able to recover in the event of a shock, like affordable housing, mobility, transportation, and that slow-moving sea level rise, increased heat that's associated with climate change. The second phase was taking those top priority concerns, looking at, and also expressed strengths and weaknesses in our community, and doing a deeper dive in 6 areas. We engaged about 3,000 in that first phase and about 150 people in 6 working groups in the second phase to do that deeper dive and really look at how do we address transportation and housing together. How do we look at building prosperity for all in our community? How do we look at our public health threats, our financing resilient infrastructure concerns? And then out of those recommendations of those 6 working groups is how we developed the strategy. It was released in May of this year, and we're now moving into implementation. We've been starting to release some of the tools and resources and wanted to make sure we got as many cities on board before we really start rolling it out in 2020. So I mentioned some of the top shocks we're concerned about, stresses. So the strategy is that you have a copy of there is organized in 3 main areas: people, places, and pathways. The places is really looking at our physical environment. We all came here maybe generations ago, maybe last year, because of Miami being a beautiful place of opportunity, and we want to protect both its natural resources, but also protect our urban ecosystem here from those increasing stresses of heat and flood and storm risk. It's also around enhancing our mobility, energy efficiencies, and affordable housing solutions. The next big area is people. We are not resilient if our people are not resilient. And that's why it's in the center, because our people should be center. And so preparing people for disasters is a core piece of this. Increasing our opportunities for our workforce and small businesses, addressing some of our biggest public health priorities, and really learning how to communicate the concept of resilience across all demographics, all geographies in the county. And then pathways is really how do we get there? We are a community of 34 cities in a county. We have multiple nonprofit businesses, university partners. How do we better coordinate for success, build our capacity internally within each of our cities? How do we build the capacity of our universities to address some of these problems? And then what are some of the tools and resources we can distribute through that? And particularly financing some of these challenges. So there's 59 actions in all. So how can North Miami participate? Some of the tools that I think might be of particular interest to North Miami is we are going to be working on a series of property adaptation toolkits. We just got funding to create a toolkit for multifamily affordable housing in partnership with Enterprise Community Partners. So that'll be an online toolkit that can be available for affordable housing owners throughout the county. But also we want to create one for single-family homeowners and for large commercial buildings. So we're starting to look at what resources we need to develop that. We've expanded the county, the city have expanded our citizen emergency response team training for neighborhood volunteers who want to be their first responder. Those are open to anyone throughout, and we really we will be sending more notices. We encourage you to get those out to your networks, to get your residents, your business owners, your community-based organization leaders to be trained in responding to disasters. The county is working on an ArcGIS hub. This is something, not all cities have access to great mapping tools and information and data. We're working with the county to make that more accessible for all the cities so that your staff can make use of that. We also are coming out with a series of tools around planning for disaster, making sure you have your systems in place for the next hurricane season in terms of procurement contracts and various issues, and looking at giving you toolkits about financing resilient infrastructure in the future. And similarly, having a checklist around large development projects to take equity and resilience into account. And the county's working on a sea level rise checklist for all capital improvement projects, whether it's a park building, firehouse, or a stormwater project. I'm not going to go into every action, but you can review those, and if you have any questions, feel free to contact us. So next steps, your city has already reviewed this. The mayor has already signed on to be a part of the Resilient 305 network. We're going to have a boot camp for all elected leaders in the county in February. So you will be all getting an invitation to that. I really encourage you to join us. We're going to be having some leadership from Rockefeller and from other cities in the network to share with us their experiences, and well as getting some outside technical expertise to do some workshops. And then the last is really encouraging your staff. We're starting to do lunch and learn shares. We just had one in Miami Beach around communicating resilience. Encourage you to have your staff attend some of those lunch and learns that will be coming up with the tools in 2020. And with that, just encourage you to stay in touch, and if you have any questions, feel free.
Thank you very much. And do you have any question on the desk?
So this resilient strategy and plan is really for events or catastrophic events coming up. It's not for planning future. It's not for our environment. It's really just, we have our flood, we have our hurricane, we have something, and this is how we plan so we can recover from it. Is this like
No.
a recovery strategy?
There's a lot of recovery strategy in it, but it is not exclusively that by any means. There is a lot to address, as I mentioned earlier, the chronic stresses around mobility, around affordable housing, around some of our broader environmental stresses, protecting our bay, our coral reefs. So it's much broader than that. It's a collective action strategy that's really about identifying what are the top priorities in our broader community and how do we better inform each other what are some of the key actions we should be taking.
So I don't see anything in here, which is something I'm hoping our city is going to be moving on shortly, is the elimination of plastic, straws, styrofoams, things, pesticides, glyphosate, stop the use of that, which I would like us to do. I don't see any of that type of, nothing like that in this.
Yeah,
program.
that you're right. And while City of Miami is starting to work on some strategies related to that, that did not come up in the broader urban resilience strategy.
'Cause if
But
we-
you're right.
If we keep dumping straws, plastic, and pesticides into our bays and canals, we're not taking care of that.
So I think that can be addressed through what we're doing around Biscayne Bay, because that's part of the biggest problem in Biscayne, not the biggest. We have nutrient problem in Biscayne Bay, but we also have litter, marine debris, ocean trash, whatever you want to call it, that is those plastics, single-use plastics. And so one of the things we talked about in our steering committee meeting yesterday actually was doing what we call a resilience accelerator, getting all the municipalities, the universities, and nonprofits together to really address what are the biggest solutions to improving the health of our bay. And certainly addressing single-use plastics has got to be one of those.
So So putting our cities together, working together, I mean, we're sitting here scared to death to implement any of these for fear of being sued and starting lawsuits
Right.
and costing the city money, which is my concern because I'm wanting to get things passed. But I think if part of this strategy would to get all of the cities together cohesively and do it, that might be something that could get it done.
Yes, and there's a lot we can do to incentivize businesses. Right now, we're looking at a sustainable events ordinance in the city, which you can control what people having events on your own property can do.
Which we do.
Good, and you can do like an awards program or merit, and I think it would be best if we could do that at a county level and everybody be
Yeah,
included.
We're
so
looking at, I'm looking at a volunteer program for our local vendors, but if we
Great.
could countywide do it, it would just make a bigger difference and not hold one of us up for being, you know, a lawsuit.
right.
So, just my suggestion. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
Thank you very much. Sir.
Sure, thank you. Welcome, glad to see you here. I've got a lot of people in my district that are very, very concerned about, you know, the issues of sea level rise
Yeah.
and resiliency. First off, the presentation you just made, is that online somewhere where I could tell residents to go look at this information?
Yeah, it's at resilient305.com.
Okay,
The full strategy's there, so anyone can take a look at it there.
gotcha.
Yeah.
What folks that I'm talking to are most concerned with are bioswales and things that they can do to protect their home or their, you know,
Their property.
apartment, the property, right? Are you guys serving as some sort of clearinghouse for ideas? I feel like, you know, first off, I don't think we can get much from the feds or the state. I know that some money has just recently been released, but when you've got people at the federal level who refuse to admit climate change, you're only going to get so much. So we sort of have to take the bull by the horn ourselves as a city.
Yes.
And I often feel like we're probably recreating the wheel, trying to do different things that maybe Miami Beach already successfully did,
Right.
or something along. How do we vet an idea that we might have to see if somebody else is already doing it and doing it well?
So one thing, if you're not a member of the Southeast Florida Climate Change Compact, I really encourage you to do that. It's a matter of just signing up. But we use a lot of tools and resources. They have trainings for staff, and there's a lot of best practices, case studies, and we typically try to use that as a clearinghouse place because it's also Boynton Beach and Fort Lauderdale that have best practices that we can learn from. It's not just in Miami-Dade County. So I really encourage that, but certainly the door's open. You're right, we need to get better at exchanging information on these ideas.
And when you say join that change compact, does that mean Scott should go on their website and get their emails? Or
No, I
is
think the
this-
city needs to formally, if you haven't, formally become a member and get involved. And you are?
Yes.
Oh, okay,
Okay.
so you are. Okay,
That's
so
great
just
then.
take advantage of it.
What I'd like to know, you're doing all this. I didn't even know Resilient 305 existed until just recently. So all the great things you've done in Miami Beach, the county, it hasn't trickled
hasn't.
down to
Right.
peons like me. So I'm trying to figure out how I can be more in tune with what's happening and get that information. You know, if you do e-blasts, e-newsletters, you know, social
Yep.
media. I just followed all your social media channels while I was sitting here.
Okay, good.
Just so, because we want to do the right things here, but it's really difficult with our resources to know exactly
Sure.
which direction to take it all in. So
Sure. So I do encourage you to sign up for mailing lists, both at Resilient 305 and the Climate Compact. Those would be two places for good updates, as well as the County Office of Resilience website. They put out a huge amount of resources every month of ideas.
and then my last question, I'm sorry to belabor all this. I think it would be great if sometime in the near future, Resilient 305 or whomever host an event here. I think too many of the big picture organizations tend to do the beach and the city
Yeah.
And then the smaller cities, we're really not that small, but we get
No.
sort of left out of the conversation. And I think I'd like to see people on the beach get their butts across the causeway and come to North Miami. So,
All right.
you know, that's
You got some nice
There you
venues.
Thank you very
We
much.
do.
But understand, when I go to those meetings, it seems like North Miami is on board, and there's a lot of things that and we've been doing recently as far as tree planting, as far as the elimination of styrofoam in the city stores, as far as pesticide in order to protect the bay. We've been doing a lot. We just need to do more. But in terms of cities doing what they're supposed to do, in terms of addressing those issues, especially when we were talking about the Biscayne Bay, and the other day we had a conference about septic tank. And when you're looking at the study the city of North Miami have done, it seems like we're making good progress when it comes to other places and throughout the county. That's mean we are moving. It's just a matter of putting those information out there and discuss with other municipalities on what they've been doing, and we tell them what we've been doing and put those actions together in order to, and for the county as a whole to benefit from that. But we're not behind when it comes to address climate change and sea level rise and come up with those small expenses. Like, I mean, when you're talking about tree, if you're talking about tree planting throughout the county, North Miami is on top of the list by not only putting canopy trees, but putting native plants
Great.
and throughout the city, and we receive grants and things like that. That's been we are moving, and there's things that we are doing show that we're in the right direction. We just need to do more in addressing that. Councilman Desulme
Great presentation, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
and Madam Irvin.
Thank you so much for your presentation. I look forward to working with you, with our city some more. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you. When is our next meeting?
So the boot camp that I mentioned is going to be in February. So you will get an invitation to that or at least a save the date soon.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Thank you. And now we're gonna move with two other presentations. Special recognition of North Miami Public Library's career online high school graduates, and a certificate of recognition presented to Officer of the Month for the month of October is gonna be Officer Nelson Perez. Let's move forward, please. Let me call the names for the certificate of completion for Career Online High School, presented to Martine Alliance. She's not here. Okay. The other one is Pascal Joseph. That's. Oh, okay. Actually, we have 5 graduates and we have only one here tonight, right? Two? Okay. You want to say something about the programs, Lucia?
Thank you, Mayor. Before I say anything, and before I call the person that is really responsible for this project to take place, who is our Teen Services Coordinator, Georgette Spratling. Thank you. I want to say that I am very proud that our library is serving the community in this way, preparing our young people to take on jobs, to prepare them to take on jobs and to start a journey in life. It is our mission to provide free and open access to education, information, technology, and lifelong learning. This program is an example of it, and I am so happy and honored that we were able to complete the first graduating class in this project, and Georgette will say a little bit more about it. Georgette?
Thank you. When I first was presented with this project from Lucia, it was very exciting for me because I am a person of helping by nature. A lot of these this was actually a first-time program for the library, and a lot of these graduates were not able to complete a high school diploma because of life, because things happen. And I was just excited to help them help themselves on a new journey of life and getting a high school diploma so that they can create better lives for themselves. And hopefully this is something that we can continue to do every year, and you will see us back here next year honoring the next group of graduates. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Pascal, is that? Chief.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Larry Juriga, the Chief of Police. Tonight we're recognizing our Officer of the Month, Sergeant Nelson Perez. We got woos and everything. That's great. Sergeant Perez is our afternoon shift commander, and he's being recognized for his alertness, vigilance, and his valiant actions in thwarting a kidnapping. And these are extremely rare, but Sergeant Perez was dispatched to a call where a man was seen fleeing in a vehicle, and a woman was waving in the back to passerbys, trying to get their attention, and it looked like he was forcing her into the vehicle. He immediately headed into the direction where the call came from, and about 12 blocks away, he observed a vehicle that matched the description. He got behind the vehicle and, we say, lit him up with his overhead lights, and as he got behind it, the vehicle blew right through a red light, so he knew the call was severe and was an actual good call. He saw a woman in the back waving like she had been originally, trying to get people's attention. She actually opened the back door and tried to jump out a few times during the chase. And understanding these situations, your heart rate gets going as an officer. You have to pick up on everything, on the people in the car, on people who are walking down the street, the other vehicles. But he kept calm, gave direction to travel, and the vehicle and the driver in the vehicle ultimately lost control, crashed into a tree. The subject jumped out, took off on foot. He was quickly apprehended, and we were able to treat the victim, who indeed had been kidnapped. So Sergeant Perez saved this woman's life and did a tremendous job for our community. So please join me in congratulating him. One more thing before Nelson speaks. His hard work not only is being recognized by the city, but tomorrow he's also being recognized by the entire county. So he's the Officer of the Month for the entire Dade County.
Thank you, appreciate it. It's really the training that the command staff and the chief and the city and the support that they give us is, I think we're one of the best trained agencies here in Miami-Dade County. And I really can't take much credit. I spotted the vehicle. But the training kicked in that the city and the chief provides us, and that's what took over. But thank you, I appreciate it.
Now it's time for city events.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, guests, North Miami neighbors. My name is Cassandra Timothy, Public Information Officer, and I am here to share some of our city's upcoming outreach program, initiative, and events. The So and So Quilters and Craft Group will host its annual Quilt and Afghan Donation Day at the Griffin Community Center on Wednesday, December 11th at 10 a.m. Your support is requested. All items will be donated to the Lotus House and the North Miami Foundation. Celebrate the grand opening of North Miami's first repurposed flood-prone lot. The Keeping Current Festival, which promotes climate change by design, will take place here in North Miami on Sunday, December 15th from 1 to 5 p.m. at 901 Northeast 144th Street. Celebrate the transformation of this previously vacant repetitive lot into a community space and water retention site at its grand opening. Don't miss on design tours, music, food, and more. North Miami Mayor Philippe Bien-Aimé and Councilwoman Mary Estime Urban will host the annual holiday concert and toy distribution at Griffin Park on Monday, December 25th at 6 p.m. December 23rd at 6 p.m. Enjoy musical entertainment, live performances from local youth group, and a visit from Santa Claus himself. The deadline to submit your tour donation to the AIDS Ministry of St. Stephen 13th Annual Tree donation is December 12th. To participate, just visit City Hall lobby between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. Monday through Friday to take a name and leave a gift for children of families served by the Food for Life Network, an organization providing food and food vouchers and meals to individuals and families living with HIV or AIDS. The City of North Miami cordially invites you to the 2019 Menorah Lighting hosted by Vice Mayor Carol Keys on Thursday, December 26th at 6:30 p.m. The ceremony takes place in the Mocha Plaza. Stay up to date with the latest happening in our city by visiting northmiamifl.gov and click on the Connect with Nomi icon where you can sign up to receive our free monthly newsletter. Residents may also like the City of North Miami on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. See you in 2020.
Thank you very much. And city projects, hurricane preparedness, none of those.
No updates, sir.
Thank you. Consent, tab A to J. Can I hear a motion on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second. Madam Clerk?
I don't have a second, Mayor.
I did.
Second.
Oh, okay. Thought he was asking. I have a motion made by Councilman Galvin to approve the consent agenda. The motion was seconded by Vice Mayor Keys. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Item passes with a 4-0 vote.
I had a question, that's fine.
Must be 4 because Mary's not down.
Madam Clerk, did you say
Okay.
4-0?
Yes. Mary's not.
Mary's not here. Is it 4-0,
Tab,
right?
tab K.
Okay.
Tab K.
Tab-
K.
Trying to get there. Tab K, proposed resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of North Miami, Florida, authorizing the city manager and city attorney to terminate the bifurcated ground lease between the city of North Miami, Florida, the Oaks One at Biscayne Landing Condominium Association, Inc., and Royal Oaks Lane, Biscayne Landing, North Miami, LLC, authorizing the city manager and city attorney to negotiate and execute the sale and transfer of fee simple interest in each of the condominium units to the applicable owners, providing for an effective date and for all other purposes. Tab K.
Through the mayor. As you know, about a year plus ago, we received an offer from the Condominium Association at the Oaks, more specifically from their trust attorney, Mr. Andrew Hellinger. We revisited. I got actually a call from Councilman Galvin, and in a response to an email to revisit looking at this sale again. What we're asking the council to do, actually, we had a conversation, negotiation, if you will, with Mr. Hellinger with regards to a minimum price. However, as you know, we are required to obtain appraisals and go through a process before consummating a sale of city land. So we're asking that you give us direction tonight via this resolution to pursue taking the remaining steps that need to be done in order to come to a final number and ultimately to get to a sale. Right now, in the staff report that's included, we've asked for a no less than $8.2 million figure. However, I've already spoken with an appraiser who actually worked on the appraisals in the area, some that you're familiar with, in particular the ones that were previously done with the Solomia, but at our direction now. So I just ask for your consideration of the item.
Thank you very much. Public hearing is now
Tab K.
open on tab K.
Good evening,
Oh, we
Mr.
have a
Mayor
presentation.
and council members. I'm Andrew Hellinger. I'm 283 Catalonia Avenue in Coral Gables. I am the receiver of the 151 at Biscayne Condominium Association. I've served in that capacity for 10 years. Originally, the association was in financial ruin. Court appointed me to fix it, repair it, finish the construction that the developer didn't do. And unit owners have asked me to stay on in that capacity with the consent of the court for 3 items: some upgrades to the property that are needed due to disrepair, and the potential buyout of this land lease. What the unit owners ask that we do is to present to the city to be treated exactly the same way that Mr. Lafrac and the Sole Mia organization have been treated. So they were originally under a land lease. They were allowed to buy out that land lease to build their apartment buildings, which could later become condominiums. In this situation, the land lease for the 151 at Biscayne condominium owners, they pay $125 a month, $1,500 a year, and they do that in perpetuity. So just like was done for Sole Mia, we were able to use the appraisal and analysis done in Sole Mia, come up with a valuation that I spoke to the manager about, that places the value, we think, on a cash flow value, a net present value of the future cash flow stream at $8.2 million. And the manager's done a good job. A few years ago, when we first made a proposal to the city and mayor and council, we had proposed a $5.5 million purchase price. Why? Because there was lots of disrepair and things had gone on in the building and values had decreased, etc. So what we're trying to do is have the city recognize that the residents in what is now Sole Mia but used to be Biscayne Landing should be treated the same. They should have a fee simple interest to their condominium. That the purchase price ought to be similar to what was the purchase price for the Sole Mia group when they purchased, and there's history there to support that. The manager has asked council for the authority to go out and do the appraisal process, negotiate with us, and get to a final agreement. and we request that you grant him that authority. Thank you. Oh, and I can answer any questions about the association and process we've been through if you have questions.
Okay. William Prevotel, 11950 North Bay Shore Drive. Little scary when I hear the reference to the Solomia group. It was a few years back that I remember standing up here and arguing that, wow, that's city property and we can't be giving it away. As former Mayor Frank Wolin said, that was the legacy of this city. And what we did at that time, and I remember being here, I remember looking at Aleem Ghani when he made the argument that we will not value this on what the actual value is, but we'll value it on this god-awful lease and what the face value of that is. No one really came up with the fact that that land that we had exchanged back then wasn't worth $20 million, but in 99 years and 200 years was well over $1 billion. And we relinquished that quite readily with very little fight. I'm all for having them to have fee simple interest in their property, and I think they should. I just hope that our city will have a method of appraising this on a fair market value rather than giving it away again. To go to the lease is sort of an insane gesture. Why don't we go to it and say, well, if you were going to build these buildings with this many units at this height and such, what would that land be worth? Much more logical way of doing it to get a true present-day value of what that land is. I'm not doing this to slight those people, not to slight our members of the council, but this is an earning stream, an income stream of the city of North Miami, the people of the city of North Miami. If we cut that short, we're cutting the income to those people who may need it the most. And I ask you that please be vigilant in pursuing this. I fully welcome going ahead to do this, but please, let's make the most of it. Let's not give it away again. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Public hearing is still open on tab K.
Jessica Alston, 1140 Northwest 125 Street. Solomia and his contract was very inadequate and unsatisfactory resolution. And it's my hope that that won't be the basis on this new negotiation for this property. So I urge you to please don't use, I agree with Mr. Provitel, don't use Solomia as a standard because it's an inadequate standard. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sylvia Londano, 14951 Royal Oaks. So I have had to suffer the history of Biscayne Landing, and therefore I want to give you all the other side of the story, which is that our apartments don't get value. So we invested in a swimming pool, which we had already bought. We invested in a room so that we could get together, which we had already paid for. We had paid for a gymnasium, and not only that, we paid for a whole bunch of amenities that we're never going to get, and a piece of land that we're not going to be able to use either, that was supposed to be huge. So we have really suffered, and from here onwards, I think that the city should do whatever the city has to do. But if, in our case, where we trusted the city, we have suffered for more than 10 years, I feel that we deserve the same treatment that was given in the past. So I really hope that you help us. Our apartments, at this point, we paid up to $600,000 for them. As of today, we cannot sell them for $250,000. We have all lost immensely. And I think that it is time for the city to give back to us too. So please take that into consideration. The suffering has been enormous. We have a swimming pool from a year ago. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Public hearing still open.
For anyone else who wishes to speak, we do have 2 podiums available, so you can start lining up.
My name is Mr. Chawla. I live in Biscayne and 151. Lived there for the last 10 years, bought a condos and invested too. You know, the city, some people come and say, oh, they can do this, that, but our property values are going down, and some of the condos are selling, like Sylvia was saying, the condos are selling at much less the price than it's supposed to be. We are doing everything we can, and all we are saying is give us the same benefits like we give it to Solemia. We're not asking for anything. And it's a short-term thing. If you try to do the other way, the property will go up because they cannot get a loan. People cannot get a loan over there because they said it's a land lease. The bank stay away. I mean, you know, it's your city, and if you don't take care of it, it's your property. You're getting a lot of tax dollars from there. Your property is going to go down. Long term, it's going to be a loss. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Public hearing is open on tab K. Public hearing is now closed. Question? Yes.
First, I want to say to Mr. Hellinger and Sylvia, thank you for your patience. This has literally been a decade-long process, as was referenced. I think to equate this with Solemia is a little bit unfair because you all were promised things as property owners under the Biscayne Landing managers. It was a decade after they bought. Flyers were circulated, and you and other owners of those condos bought, sight unseen sometimes, amenities that weren't built for you when the building opened. There was no pool until just recently. There was no guardhouse until just recently. There was no rec center until just recently. So people invested their money in thinking they were getting something else, and it took a lot of negotiation between this city and the former Biscayne Landing managers to get them to give up some land so a nice pool could be built. I think this really just goes to allowing you more flexibility in the future sale of your units or anything like that, just increasing its value. You're gonna, okay, and I was just gonna, this just is what the city promised you and the Biscayne Landing people promised you several years ago, I believe, and we're just bringing you to current time. So thank you for your patience, Sylvia. It's nice to see you here tonight. How many times have you been here over the years? No, you're welcome. Sure, no, and I hope the council will support this tonight, because at the very minimum, what we know already is that $8.2 million will be coming to the city, and for anybody who is concerned about our financial bottom line, $8.2 million minimum is a nice place to start. So, well, yeah,
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we can't do that without a, but thank you, council members.
Vice Mayor.
I'd also, just background, because I've been involved with the Oaks since the beginning, not necessarily on the council, but 100% involved with the owners of the Oaks. You cannot compare this to Solemia. The Oaks were built. Their lease was done long before the Solemia people ever came. So they actually have no right under that lease to buy like Solemia. But that's besides the point. There's 400 plus residents. Was it 450 residents?
373 units.
Okay, there's 370 owners there who have really suffered. Bought sight unseen. How about when they bought it? There were no catwalks. There were beautiful windows, pictures. It was gorgeous. What they got that they had already paid for was not what they were promised by the previous developers. And if they didn't buy, they were going to lose $100,000 or more of their deposits. Right now, if we turn around and sell what rights we have in the lease, all we can get is the present value of lease payments. Now, we did that with Solemia, and that's where they're asking for us to do a similar purchase. But we can't sell this to anybody else all that this lease and these payments are worth to us is what we're gonna receive for the next 100 or 200 years. If we sell our lease, we immediately start getting tax dollars. We are going to increase the value of the apartments because they're no longer subject to a land lease. They will be able to get financing. The value of the apartments will escalate considerably. Their property values, what they paid for these condos, I know, are so much less than what they paid for. And I say, we're not dealing with a developer. We're not dealing with a developer getting ready to make millions and millions. We're dealing with our homeowners, our residents. Sylvia has lived there. Sergio, you've lived there for 10 years. These people have suffered. I don't want a nickel and dime, and we're entitled to the lease payments. And I'm going to support our residents. I'm going to support 370 of our property owners tonight and not worry about getting top dollar. And when we're not giving the land away, we are going to increase the value, and we're going to get tax dollars.
Please, thank you very much. And
Yeah.
nobody said we're not gonna work with the residents. It's just a city property. We just wanna negotiate in good faith. That's what we're doing. And $8.2 million, and that's what they offer or they propose. But that doesn't mean that's what they're gonna pay for it. And I spoke with the manager and said, you're gonna come up with an appraisal. That's when after the appraisal and you negotiate, that's when you're gonna come up with the right number.
Correct.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do concur with what you said, but I also, for Councilman Galvin, who's been dealing with this for a couple years, and as well as stated by Vice Mayor Keys, I am all for the fee interest market fair value of the residents, and I think hearing the pain in the two residents who spoke tonight speaks volume and kind of illustrate what's going on. However, the equation, that's the mistake of that word Solomia or Biscayne lending. That's totally not fair because we're dealing with breach of contracts. I haven't seen any reports and all this and all that. So that's out. Based on what Vice Mayor Keys said and what's been going on for the past few years, and we do understand that the value of the property is not what it's supposed to be because of this. However, this is my only little hiccups, and I will ask the manager. This $8.2 million, I do disagree with Vice Mayor where we're not going to nickel and dime. I do believe we need to do what we can for the city. At this point, I do understand where the residents are going, but I am elected to represent the city, not, so I don't think the 8.2 is a fair. At this, I know you're supposed to get because this is my thing. If you haven't, so how did this number came about? The 8.2.
That's based on a preliminary calculation of the present value of the remaining CAD.
Okay.
We have to, by our ordinances, I'm required to get an appraisal of the value. The appraiser will be provided with the present value calculation. They've been actually provided with the lease, so they have all of the information, and they will do the valuation. And I'll have that document and our ordinance specifically says we can't go below 90%, I believe.
Okay, 90% of
whatever that value is.
Of whatever that value of that appraiser value is, because that's my concern. Next question: are you coming back, or where? So what if you do an appraisal?
Okay, the question and not the question. Sorry,
No, go ahead.
What we are doing now, it's authorize the administration to, in good faith, negotiate with them, come with the right number, do the appraisal, and bring the final proposal.
Is that
to
correct?
Mayor and council for approval.
Okay.
Yeah, I can bring it back. Yes.
What do you mean? Is it coming back? Because I would like for it to come back.
I'll bring it back.
Okay, no problem. That's my only. I'll support this. Thank you.
Council, yes.
Thank you. So if approved tonight, you're going to get an appraiser. So will this be ready to be brought back to us in our next meeting, January 13th?
No, my councilwoman, let me tell you what we are doing. We authorize them to negotiate with the Oaks. When the negotiation is finalized, that's when they're gonna bring it before us. That's mean if it can take 1 week, it can take 2 months or 3 months. It's based on the negotiation, and we have to wait for the appraisal
If I
to
might,
come up with some.
Mr. Mayor, and
Yes.
if I can guess, they want to get this done sooner rather
Exactly.
than
That's mean it's not. We're not gonna say next council meeting. It's they're
Well,
gonna negotiate and
I-
bring us the.
So I was actually, so my understanding is,
I'll answer your question. That'd probably be better. I've already contacted the appraiser. It's one of the appraisers on our list. I've already provided them with some of the baseline information. I gave him instructions that of timing, and they're going to get back to me today or tomorrow when they can absolutely have it finished. There's quite a bit of contract review they have to do, but they have this firm has done this before for us, so I'm confident that we can have it back. We'll be done
But let me-
before the next
Is it
meetings.
one appraisal or just-
Well before the next meeting.
Okay.
Go ahead. Can you let's Councilwoman.
no, that's, basically, that's what I wanted to know. I wanted to know, and you're waiting for the appraisal process, and you're ready to negotiate and move on, right? And
Just to clarify, what
Okay.
we've each done, city staff and the association, we hired an expert to value the cash flow.
Okay.
So
You hired it? I'm sorry, sir.
we hired our own expert,
And then they hired.
and we've shared that with the manager.
Wait,
The
wait,
manager-
wait. I have a.
So they have the right to do whatever
Oh,
they
they
want to do the evaluation.
It just didn't sound-
We need to do what
For-
we're supposed
for
to
ease
do,
of-
and we're gonna bring them together.
For
and
ease of
decide.
negotiation, we
Yes.
wanted to be quite frank, the city's been good to the association. The city's been helpful to the unit owners. This isn't an adverse negotiation. So for ease of our relationship, the manager asked if we could share, an accounting. It took us a year to do it, to prove that from 2007 to today, the unit owners have paid what they ought to have paid the city. So we wanted to assure the city that these unit owners have paid what they were obligated to pay in the past. The manager asked, we hired someone to do an appraisal for us, so I could go to unit owners and say, if we make this offer, this is your expectation of range of purchase price. We've shared that with the manager. The manager is asking that he go through that city process
On our own.
on your
Yes.
own, with your own appraisers. I have to assume that the city staff has looked at the valuation and come up with its own range of what the possibility of it is, and we've had that conversation. So we're pretty far along, and I believe that the appraisals that the manager will obtain will be within the range of what we have discussed, we think the value is, because this is a valuation of future cash flow stream. It's a matter of what's the interest rate really in that valuation process.
Okay, so.
Another
my next
question.
one- go ahead.
Another question. It's how many appraisals?
We have, it says 2, and then we take the average. That's what our ordinance says.
So it's 2.
But both will be given all of the same data and all of that stuff, and then.
And they'll give us.
And typically, and I'll tell you this, appraisers, if they follow the same methodology, they're within,
That's right.
3-5% of each other usually. If there's something more than that, then obviously there's something wrong with the
Okay.
one or the other appraisal.
Got it.
Carol, you have.
So there's really no chance that this would ever get funded and recorded before January 1st?
Why do we need that? Why is the deadline?
Well, the deadline would be not good for the owners, but for us. If the deed got recorded, we would then, next year in 2020, get the taxes on the land value. If we don't
Yeah, but
close,
no,
if we
yeah,
don't close till after January 1st, then we do not get the taxes on the land value until 2000.
That's the
You know,
problem.
out of-
Give me
yeah.
a second. That's the problem we have in the city. Staff always bring things at the last minute and rushing us to. We need to do something. If we don't do it, we're gonna.
Yeah.
We've been there. You.
It's not
It
that.
was in the
You
budget.
no. The Mr. Gallagher came here over a year ago, tried to do the same thing, right? And that's when we find out we have past dues and things like that, when we ask them to straight that before we can start engaging discussion. That's when it's not our responsibility. And I don't like the fact that because we are in a financial situation with our budget, we have to rush in to cut a deal so we can adjust that.
So what I'm going to say is I don't want to rush into it. We're not going to get it done. So let's just go ahead, get our appraisals, and
that's when we're gonna do it the right way. We wanna negotiate. We wanna come up to a solution, but not just tell me there's a deadline for December and whatever the reason is. And the budget, when it comes to the budget, we need to address the deficit on a different level, not just try to sell so we can balance our budget. We need to find a solution to address the budget deficit without that.
And Mr. Mayor, no, that is so true, because Vice Mayor said we would not use this as a money thing. So we have to make sure this is we're doing it the right way. I don't think at this point we need to worry about the money, the tax coming. It's more important that we get it right, because there was a lot of messed up with the other one. So that's why, Mr. Gallagher, when you mentioned Solomio Biscayne Landing, those were red flag. But so we want to help the residents. We do want to do this. I don't think that's absolutely not. We just have to make sure the appraisal is done, correctly and adequately. And I'm glad that it's going to be two, versus one. So
10 years.
10 years, I guess a couple months it could wait. If it's the sooner the better.
Yes.
But we have to get it right. Thank you.
I'd like to move approval, Mr. Mayor.
And
Second.
what are we approving? Can you state it on record, Mr. City Manager, please?
The city attorney.
Well,
Giving you authorization
you're
to
giving
negotiate
authorization to negotiate, and that we will bring the
final
item back to
resolution
the
for a
council.
vote to council. Yes, Madam Clerk.
I have a motion made by Councilman Galvin to approve the item at tab K. The motion was seconded by Councilwoman Estime Irvin. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The item passes with a 5-0 vote.
Mayor and council, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Tab L, proposed resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of North Miami, Florida, approving the city administration's competitive selection of H&R Paving, Inc. and Metro Express, Inc. as the two highest ranked contractors to provide asphalt resurfacing services in accordance with the terms, conditions, and specifications contained in invitation for bids number 04-19-20, further authorizing the city manager and city attorney to negotiate and execute agreements with selected contractors for the provision of services for a combined annual amount not to exceed $440,000, providing for an effective date and for all other purposes. Tab L. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, Alberto Estrade, Purchasing Director. The item that you have before you under tab L represents the results of the solicitation titled IFB number 4/1920, which was issued for the purpose of requesting bids from qualified contractors to provide the city with the necessary supervision, labor, and materials for the resurfacing and repairs of city streets, alleyways, and driveway approaches on an as-needed basis. As reflected in the council report that was submitted in support of this item, the city received 4 bids in response to this solicitation, and the prices submitted by each of the contractors are reflected on the bid tabulation, which is included in the report. Following review and evaluation of each bid by staff is now recommending award to the 2 lowest responsive and responsible bidders, which are listed in your bid tabulation, and they are the firms H&R Paving Incorporated and Metro Express Incorporated, for a total aggregate amount not to exceed $440,000 a year, with an initial term of 3 years and 2 additional 1-year renewal options. Task orders under this contract will be issued by staff for specific locations, and the duration for each project
will be stipulated therein. Here with me in support of this item is the city's Public Works Director, Mr. Whistler Pierre Lewis. And if you have any questions regarding the scope of this contract or the evaluation itself, we will be glad to take them. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let's open it to the public. Public hearing is open. Public hearing is open. Public hearing is now closed.
Move approval.
Second.
Do you have any question? None? Madam Clerk?
I have a motion made by Councilman Galvin to approve the item at tab L. The motion was seconded by Vice Mayor Keys. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Item passes with a 4-0 vote in the absence of Councilman Desmay.
Excuse me, Madam Clerk, I'd like to record my vote for the consented agenda. I forgot to mention that earlier because I stepped out, and I'd like to record it as a yes, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You wanna record?
Tab M.
You wanna record Councilman Desmay for a moment?
Councilman Desmay, what is your vote on tab L?
Tab M or L?
L.
Repaving.
Yes, yes.
The item passes with a 5-0 vote. Tab M. Proposed resolution, quasi-judicial, of the mayor and city council of the city of North Miami, Florida, approving the site plan for a proposed 4-story parking garage on the 23.1 acre real property located at 1820 Northeast 142nd Street, and specifically identified with Miami-Dade County Folio Number 06-2221-023-0010. In accordance with Article 2, Division 7, Section 2-701, and Article 3, Division 2, Section 3-204 through Section 3-206, and Article 3, Division 3, Section 3-302 of the City of North Miami Code of Ordinances, Chapter 29, entitled Land Development Regulations, providing for an effective date and for all other purposes. At this time, we're going to swear anyone in that will be providing testimony. So if you plan on giving testimony on this case, please rise and raise your hand, your right hand, as I issue the oath. I mean, just in case, right? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give in these proceedings will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, say aloud, I do. In addition to that, please go ahead and collect a speaker card if you plan on speaking. Fill them out. They are color-coded in favor, against, and one might be blank, so please feel free to grab one, fill it out, and bring it over to me, or Myra is in the back and she can collect them.
Oh, no, I don't think that's her.
I thought that was her.
Oh.
I'm like, where's she sitting?
She comes a lot, though.
She does. I know. I was like, where is she sitting?
Right. Did you know she's
She'll get up.
Thank you. For the record, Tanya Wilson with Community Planning and Development Department. The item before you is a request for site plan approval for a 4-story parking garage for the property located at 1820 Northeast 142nd Street. This is known as the Lero Apartments. The council may be familiar with it as Portofino previously. You may recall that back in October, there's a conditional use permit amendment that was brought before you to allow for the addition of a parking garage on the subject site. That was approved by the council back in October. So what's before you is the actual site plan to allow for that 4-story parking garage. The site itself is a total of 23 acres. It's zone PD3. It's a planned development site. It allows for land use of mixed use. In terms of the site plan, that's been reviewed by our Development Review Committee. It meets the terms of the setback, the height requirements. Because of the city's green regulations, every new construction has to be built based on green design elements, and it has met that criteria. It's also exceeding the open space criteria. So the recommendation by the Development Review Committee is for approval for this parking garage. We do have the applicant's agent that's here to answer any questions if the council has any questions at this time.
minutes.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Ethan Wasserman with Greenberg Charg, 333 Southeast 2nd Avenue, here on behalf of the applicant. I'll keep my remarks very brief. Staff introduced the item. It's a very straightforward application tonight. We are proposing a 4-story garage. The property itself is 23 acres. You could think of the property shaped almost like a V. We're putting the garage in the center northern portion, which abuts the Lexus dealership to our north. The Lexus dealership has a parking garage, so our garage and their parking garage are basically sited together. That's how we situated the property on site. We are also surrounding the garage with the 5 existing apartment buildings, so it's essentially buffered from all sides. You have the garage to the north, and you've got apartment buildings on all sides. The obvious reason we're doing this is it's a benefit to our tenants and our guests. Right now, the property has about 870 residential units, and we have surface parking throughout. We have surface parking scattered all over the site. This is a benefit in the sense of we'll now have cars protected from the heat, from the elements, from rain, from storm conditions. During a storm, people can park their car and leave it in a garage. It's protected from the elements. Our entire team is here tonight to answer any questions you may have. Our architect, our landscape architect, our civil engineers, but being that it's solely a garage that's before you all, if you have any questions, they're happy to answer them. Staff is recommending in favor of the application. We've gone through a full DRC review. We meet all of the code criteria for approval tonight, and we have no objection to any of staff's conditions of approval. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's open it to the public. Public hearing is open on the item. Tab M.
William Prevotel, 11950 North Bay Shore Drive. I'd like to speak in favor of this, in the sense that I've spoken in favor of structure-type pedestal parking in the past. I think it's great that we're going to, I'm hoping that this is not merely supplemental, but it might also, they might be able to reclaim some of the surface parking that they have if they have this new structure. I don't know if that promise has been made in the evaluation process, but if it could be, that would be great. If we have more structured parking, there are less drainage problems. The cars are kept better. It's better security, better ventilation, better visually. Hopefully it'll be more convenient for these people. It'll increase the property value. All these things are good, and I hope we have it for this project as well as future projects, that structured parking, which does come with a cost, but it's basically borne by the developer. I hope that our city can encourage that as best as possible. While I have probably a few seconds left, may I just ask that maybe in the future we do not have forms that say yes or no immediately, but it just be a neutral white piece of paper, and then we check which it is that we decide, if we have to at all. Why do we have to claim our position? Absolutely yes or absolutely no?
Because we can't do neutral.
Yeah, well, it's to claim that in advance is a little strange. I would like it that we just claim our interest would be great. Thank you very much.
Public hearing is still open on the item. Public hearing is on tab M. Public hearing is now closed.
Move approval.
Second, quick question. Second, I'll approve it. You mentioned, sorry, it's similar to Lexus. Lexus have the top with the rooftop. This not that. It's just the parking lot, not the rooftop.
This is just a parking garage.
Okay.
A parking garage.
All right, that would have been nice. Okay.
Thank you very much. No other Madam Clerk.
I have a motion made by Councilman Galvin to approve the item at tab M. The motion was seconded by Councilman Desilme. Councilman Galvin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilman Desilme, how do you vote?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Keys, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilwoman Estime Irvin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mayor Bieneme, how do you vote?
Yes.
Item passes with a 5-0 vote.
Thank you all. Happy holidays. Happy New Year.
Thank you very much. And now it's time for Citizens Forum.
Bill. Bill
Oh.
won't come up. Oh my God. Bill just.
Citizen Forum. Yes, you can come. We have another mic.
We have 2 podiums, so
Bill.
please begin lining up.
Mr. Prevotel.
Good evening, my name
Gonna
is Jeff
leave it for
Kugler. I reside at 2253 Northeast 122nd Street, North Miami. My wife and I are fortunate that we're on our waterways every weekend, and we've noticed by Alota State Park about a year ago, a derelict vessel came in and seems to be permanently moored there. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Nobody's ever removed this vessel. It's a hazard. It's an attractive nuisance. We've noticed recently another vessel has come in, and they're putting permanent moorings down. And if you're going to take care of our waterways, these vessels should not be there. Who is giving permission to plant these permanent moorings for these derelict vessels that have no use other than to deteriorate in our waterways and cause pollution? Why isn't anybody doing anything about this? Are we becoming a home for desolate vessels on the waterways?
It's the townhouses on 123rd. Are you speaking on, can you repeat your address? We missed the whole first 30 seconds.
Okay. 2253 Northeast 122nd Street. Okay.
That's not.
Okay. I'm talking about the bay by Oleta State Park, which is part of North Miami. Okay. We have desolate vessels in there, and they're permanently moored. Okay. Yes. There's one there that's a year old, and there's another one that just moved in recently. They're permanently moored. They're going to be decrepit. They're going to fall apart. They're going to pollute our waterways, and there's no reason for them to be there, but it seems somebody has planted permanent moorings for these vessels to be there.
We'll have our chief and our water patrol get the location from you, and they can go out and take a look at
Okay.
it.
So for clarification, the moorings that you're concerned about are not abutting your property immediately.
No,
They're out in the
So
water.
that's what was throwing us all off, as you're saying, and then you're talking about something that's off in the distance of the
Correct.
park.
In the bay?
Yeah.
Now I gotcha. Thank you.
William Previtel, 11950 North Bay Shore Drive. I'd like to start by thanking both Mayor Bien-Aimé and Councilman Desalmais for pledging to be vigilant regarding this potential sale of property at the Oaks. At the moment, just with that number that was thrown out, that would mean about a $20,000 price per unit. It's not that uncommon in Miami-Dade County to have a $100,000 valuation for the land to create a condominium unit. I'm not saying that it is in this case, but certainly it's going to be more than $8.2 million. They're coming in lowballing us, and certainly it's more. Let me ask the other question. If you wanted to build 373 units right now, would you be able to find a piece of land, any decent piece of land in Miami-Dade County that you could build 373 units for $8.2 million? You'll be hard-pressed to find something, let alone in walking distance, to go to kindergarten, to a doctorate degree, all your shopping, hospitals, unobstructed views to the ocean, pretty good. So please, thank you for being vigilant. Let me give a final example. Let me say that each of you have a piece of art. I'm not going to use a car, I'm going to say a piece of art, and art, generally good artists, increase in value. Let's say that artwork is $100,000. Each of you have one, it's a well-known artist, it's going to increase in value. You're going to rent it to me. 10 years at $1,000 a year. 10 years, $1,000 a year for your $100,000 artwork. Not so unheard of. We rent 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. I come to you and say, you know, this thing is only worth, our lease is only worth $10,000. I'll tell you what, I'll downgrade it, I'll discount it, I'll give you $8,000 for it, and you give me the artwork. I'll even give you all $10,000. You give me the artwork. How is that any different from what we're doing with this property? This property will be worth hundreds of millions of dollars at the end of the lease.
200
And
years.
we're valuing it on the basis of I was going to use the word, but a really poor lease. We're going to value it just on that, not on what the valuation is. And that was the major flaw of what we did with Solomia, and we gave it away. In an absolute case of corporate colonialism, we gave away that land. Let's not repeat that mistake. Let's not hurt the citizens of this city. Let's value it properly, and let's find out, just for hoots, let's find out what that land is worth at the end of the lease. Let's find out what that would be worth if that lease expires, what it's then worth with those buildings on top of it, which would be our property then.
Won't even be
So please, thank you for being vigilant, and happy holidays to all. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Jessica Alston, 1140 Northwest 125 Street in Sunkist Grove. I want to wish everyone a happy holiday. I want to say to Sunkist Grove, I am so proud, so happy what I'm seeing happening on the streets of Sunkist Grove. The neighbors are really putting out their lights. It's looking beautiful. Just a reminder, our life.
It's looking good.
Yeah, I said it's looking good. Who's laughing?
I am Councilman.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's looking good. I'll say it again. I'll
That's
say it
what
loud.
I'm saying. Say it loud
It's
so they
looking
can
good.
hear.
It's looking good. Those of you who haven't been over Sunkist Grove,
That's
and haven't-
right.
go and take a look.
You
You
let 'em
might be
know.
surprised what you're going to see.
Arthur.
And I am so proud. I am so proud. So neighbors, you keep it up. Just a reminder, you must register on Eventbrite with a $20 registration fee to be considered to be to be in the contest. Our first prize, $100. Second prize, $75. Third prize is $50. I want to thank Councilman Dusume, our councilman, for sponsoring it with the Sunkist Grove Neighborhood Association and Tap Life. I want to thank our Vice Mayor, Carol Keys, for donating a bike because we are going to have a bike giveaway. I want to thank our Madam Clerk for donating a bike. I want to thank, yes. I want to thank, and then Councilman Dusume is donating 2 bikes. So.
He's donating 5 bikes.
And I want to extend the invitation to the rest of you to participate if you'd like. We're really looking forward to our festival to bring in the new 2020 decade. We're bringing in a new decade, and we're going to bring it in with the lights, with joy and happiness, and thank you. You can search on Facebook SKGFF, that's Sunkist Grove Fabulous Festival, in order to get further information. The site will be updated shortly. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor.
Public hearing is now open. Still open, sorry. We're not done.
Okay, not that we were done. I just wanted to make a recommendation.
Okay, thank you very much. Public hearing is now closed. Yes.
I just wanted to announce I have officially registered our deputy manager to be in part of the SKG thing. There you go.
Yeah, you do.
SKG.
Who lives in Sunkist Grove? It's Mr. Sunkist.
Are we done?
Yes.
Okay, now
doing reports?
yeah, we're talking about reports and Carol, go.
No report except for Happy Holidays, Happy New Year. Will be available by email and telephone during the hiatus, but Happy Holidays.
Happy holidays. If you haven't had a chance yet to come see Enchanted Place, it's Northeast 137th Terrace off of 16th Avenue. It's a mile-long roundabout, and all of the oak trees are filled with lights. It's really a sight to be seen. The residents work really hard to put everything together. I think this is one of the better years in recent memory, so check out Enchanted Place. We have some chorus groups from schools that are coming out singing on various nights. There's going to be a living nativity scene staged by some of the residents this coming Saturday night around 7 p.m. But Enchanted Place of North Miami is really a sight to see. Happy holidays.
That's mean the choir that they play every day?
No, it depends on when the
weekend?
teachers get them out there. It's a choral group actually out of Miami Gardens. I forget what the church is. It just depends on who she can round up, and then they come out. I know they're going to be there this Saturday as well as the Living Nativity this Saturday.
Thank you very much. As far as reports, Mr. Manager, and I heard or I received some unpleasant number when it comes to our city deficit for this year. I'm talking about 1920. We're 90 days from passing a budget for 2019-2020. Do you have an idea of what the deficit is for this year?
I don't.
Added to.
I don't as of right now. I'll find out. I had a conversation with our auditors, and I actually gave them an item. It's actually a reconsideration of the accounting entry that helped create the deficit in the first place. Their response to me, they're reviewing it, but they won't get to it until towards the end of the audit. I assume end of January timeframe. So by then I'll be able to give you a better sense.
When the next report for the CAFA is coming out?
It is due March 30th.
Okay, but March 30th. And but you anticipate it's going to be a deficit for this year anyway.
If they accept what I presented to them, actually no.
What do you mean accept what?
I presented them I presented them data, and it's kind of esoteric concept. They asked us to reclass $16 million of revenue that was recorded as revenue before I got here in one year. The revenue was associated with our agreement with Solomia, which, as you know, is a 200-year lease. Mm-hmm. According to General Gatsby and FASB, you should amortize that revenue over the life of the contract. Our consultant, Toussaint Pierre, that did the analysis for Solomia that you guys have all been shared, actually found in the contract there's specific language that ties that payment to a much shorter time period. And thus, when I presented them that information, they take a look at it, because then the reclassification they made us do would be a fraction of that. Like right now, we're amortizing $16 million over 100 years. That would actually, we'd amortize it over, I think it was like 10 years or something like that. So it'd be a very different number.
That's when it's going to affect
Our
this
revenue.
year budget.
Yeah, it would affect our final revenue number for the year.
For the upcoming year?
No,
for the
year
past year?
The year we ended.
18-19?
Yes.
Okay, and that's gonna
that would change
reduce
our
our deficit?
It would reduce our deficit.
Okay, if you said, but do you have the number?
No, I'm
if
talking
you
about
present the report,
No,
then
what I'm saying, it would reduce our last.
The
the
$8 million deficit
from our last financial statement.
Okay, but at the same time, I understand that, with that new thing that you're gonna bring to the auditor, but at the same time, what are you doing differently in order to avoid another deficit?
Well,
because I see you posted 6 jobs online, 6 positions.
So everything that's posted is budgeted, as we discussed in private earlier today. There are 2 police positions, a planner that is replacing someone that quit, and I forget what the 4th position was off the top of my head. Oh no, there were 2 positions in the utility operations, public works. So those are in our special revenue fund, and again, budgeted positions. You're asking me what I'm doing differently. I'm working with the budget director. We're monitoring all expenditures. I'm actually giving you guys monthly reports of your discretionary accounts. So I'm doing a lot of different things. So
I don't know what you're talking about. I got a lot
but
of
you're asking me what I'm doing differently. So we're doing a lot closer monitoring of our expenditure. I've had even some department heads come in, oh, well, can I do this? No, I need to wait till after the first quarter's done, so we get a sense of how our revenue collection is done. So, or our revenue collection for the current year is done. So we're
But I heard they were talking about another $8 million deficit to add to that 8.
Again, sir, I'm the CPA here. I'm not going to give a number and it change until I have the right number. And that I won't have that right number until after the auditors have finished their field work.
Okay,
which will
but
be in February.
Okay, but based on what you just said, do you think this year we're not gonna have another deficit?
The current year we're in?
Yeah.
In the current year we're in, if we continue to do what we're doing, we should be at budget, because I'm following the budget that you guys gave me. You know, we obviously, you guys know there's some areas of concern that we had, because I talked to you in private about them, and so does my deputy. And we're working through those issues.
But from what I understand, it looked like we said, okay, it's not a problem since we have the Oaks coming in, we have Solemia coming in. That's mean we're gonna be okay. It's like we keep doing the same thing again and again.
Well, let me.
And
I don't know
I don't
where you're
see
getting.
real
I don't-
change.
I don't know where you get that sentiment from. The real change that needs to happen is about looking at how our revenue collection is against our expenditures. We're sticking to that budget, and you know, I get, as you guys know, I get a lot of requests for things that are not there. We collectively have an agreement that if I get one of those requests, I'm to bring them back to you, and I will bring them back to you, and we will discuss them here in a public forum. And you know, expenditure on hiring and all those things are closing. Again, we haven't
But I
even
remember we had
completed.
it-
We
we
haven't even
closed it.
completed our first quarter yet. We haven't even completed our first quarter yet. So, allow us to get into. And the first quarter ends at the new year, in the start of the calendar year. We'll have a first 3-month assessment. You'll get your actual report that will be presented to the
But
board
I
as
remember you
required.
said new hiring was freeze.
No,
when
we
we were
had-
when the budget was presented, you
No,
said you're gonna freeze
we
any
froze.
new hire.
Those positions were frozen. So what you see being recruited is still a budgeted position.
No, but I don't understand that. But it was in the budget. But at the same time, you said, okay, we wasn't gonna hire any unless it was necessary and important that we do that. But I see 6, 7 position online.
I think it's 5. And again,
close to 6.
I mean, we can debate it. I'm just telling you, they're all budgeted. And
Because my concern is we had a $8 million deficit, and this year the number that I hear from you guys and are unpleasant. You wanna know who the city attorney say who? I have to disclose that?
I'm just wondering who, Mayor, because the manager's telling you that he doesn't know the deficit. So I'm wondering which.
I'm allowed to, for the purpose of information, I'm
No, I
allowed
was
to
just
talk
asking,
to
I'm
other
wondering
people.
who. I would like to.
Does the city have any?
As a person just listening to the conversation, sir, I was just wondering. I wonder who told you that.
it's all positions. Oh, wow. Okay. So again, as we discussed earlier, the positions that are being recruited are budgeted. 2 of them are actually not even in the general fund. 2 are in the utility fund. The other 2, so there's 5 positions. 2 of them are police positions that you guys put more money in those budgets. If you recall, 1 is certified and 1 is trainee. You have 2 utility positions and 1 planner, and the planner quit 3 or 4 weeks ago. And so with regards to the positions that we froze, they're frozen, and we're sticking to those, that head count.
That's when will you be able to tell us what is the deficit for this past year?
Last year, I told, after the field work and audit work is done by the auditors, we'll have a stronger number that I would rely on and be able to put out. And again, that's probably at least the end of January, middle February. But I can keep you abreast of it. So.
Yeah, because you remember the $8 million deficit, it was based on the CAFA report because the administration
Correct.
never admit that it was a deficit until and they bring the number to our attention and
Well,
and
I
the
would-
same
I would-
people anticipate we're
I
going to
would
have
debate
another
whether
big
the
deficit
administration
again.
said anything about that, because the first deficit year I brought to you because there was an incorrect accounting entry that was posted before I got here. That's what started the deficit to begin with. Last year, I told you, and you guys already saw this, the deficit was created because we did not get we were supposed to do a Solomia sale, and we budgeted to receive
No,
$3
it wasn't
million
the
of-
point. It's because you put it in the budget without us knowing about it.
You approved the budget.
It was misleading.
Okay.
I don't know where we're going with all this tonight.
I don't either.
That's my report. That's why I'm the mayor of the city. I can ask my question. I understand. Nobody knows where I'm coming because I cannot disclose
No, you
with you
can't.
where I'm coming.
You can disclose
It's
the name of
report.
whomever is speaking to you, and if that person feels that they're a whistleblower, they should act like a whistleblower and go file some report, not come with something after the fact saying, "Oh, well, I was gonna be a whistleblower." If somebody sees something, if you're in the sound of my voice and you see or know something about this city's
We're not
finances
with- that's
that
the-
isn't known to us, do something about it.
That's not what it is. We're talking about the budget deficit. The number gonna come out. Let's start working on the number. There is nothing that there is no secret. We're talking about there is no whistleblower. It's not. We're not talking.
but you're
We're not
saying somebody
saying
is
that
giving
people
you
are giving
information.
bad. No, we're not.
Is that
We're not talking
somebody
about wrongdoing. We're talking about numbers that gonna come out.
Right.
And they start based on the report they start getting.
If a
I'm not-
staff member is telling you there's more budget holes and problems than we've been made
No,
aware
no,
of,
that's not what it is. There's a CAFA report that's gonna
Right.
come out, right?
In March,
In
right.
March. I'm pretty much sure we already meet with the auditor.
So is the auditor the one who's telling you
I'm
this?
pretty much sure you met with them, all of them.
I haven't met with them
And they
lately.
start getting numbers, and the numbers is being provided by the finance or other departments. I say based on number coming in, based on talk of employees to the auditor. That mean we may face another big deficit. That's what I'm talking about.
So is it the auditors that
That's-
are saying this to you?
Listen, don't put word in my
Well,
mouth.
that's why I'm trying to get the word out of your mouth. Who is it?
That's a report. It will come out.
Okay.
What's important is what we're gonna do to reduce the deficit. I think that's what's important, and we cannot just rely on selling the Oaks and Solemia in order to balance our budget and reduce the 16 or 15 or $10 million deficit. That's what I'm discussing now, and you are gonna say something, Councilman Desiree.
No, whenever you're
My
ready, I'm
concern
ready
is
for my report.
is under the blow on the budget. That's what I'm discussing, and that's what's scary. And I don't see that the administration is doing anything different to address that deficit. When
But
in
that's a-
March we have the CAFA, and then
Mr. Mayor, that's a heavy thing to say, and without knowing where you're getting
that's
your
heavy thing to
information.
say. The
Right,
same way
that's right.
the public been saying we have a big deficit, and nobody want to admit it until the CAFA said it's $8.5 million deficit, and we have to swallow that. It was election year, we swallow it, but now there's another one coming in.
And that's, I hear what you're saying. I'm going to agree with you. There's one coming. I'm basing that totally off of your information, but I don't know where you're getting your information.
will get
so
the-
if you
you
want,
will- okay.
so
It's
the report-
coming.
Okay, the report is coming in March.
It's coming.
It's December. It's the holiday, so we got to wait another 3 months to figure out what that is. So
Okay. Go ahead.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Happy holidays to everyone. Before we go on break, Mr. Manager, I just want to, if you could jot down some of the items that's really been, because you and I, we haven't met because of me, most part, but some of you also. But I do have some concerns and some resident stuff I had. Question, Mr. Attorney, this has absolutely no relative to you. When is your contract up, or are you just like, is your contract in his or month by month? It's a month by month contract?
No.
When does it, how is it?
I think you all approved my contract this year.
I know, how do
So
you
there's
do
a 3-year term, and then after the 3-year term, it goes to a at-will contract.
And yours is similar, Mr. Manager?
I have an at-will contract, yeah.
So it's not similar?
No, I don't have.
Oh, okay.
I'm at an at-will.
Okay. Away from that, but please jot these down, because these are some of the concerns that I don't want us to leave with this big break that I don't share with you, or at least with the public. I have been getting some concerns with I'm glad Miss Austin is seeing the district and some stuff, but there are some concerns. I'm just gonna jot them down so that Parks and Rec, number one, had some issues. I'm glad that they did put the stuff back at Pepper. In reference to, we had a van that we were supposed to be getting for the seniors. It's been 3 years. The Keep Up, somebody not writing, I'm just, oh, okay. The Keep Up at, yes, sir. The Keep Up at the parks that we talked about during the budget, it's not adequate, and we need to do something where it's more resident central, because I've been talking about it and I'm getting to the point where 2020 is a new year and we cannot keep adding the same thing. It's going to get better. It's going to get better. I had one meeting 2 years ago where a group of residents had concerns, and I think I shared it with you in one of my briefings, where they do not want soccer at Ben Franklin because cussing is happening, stuff is going towards. I met with your with I think you, but I met with the director and we went over to the park. We talked, and I said, I think the better thing that we might do is move it at Pepper, because that's not resident friendly, and that was a year and a half ago. They still over there until I got 2 calls. So that's on that communication. Please trying to do something, because the lack of the communication across the street is not speaking. And I guess across some of your outside offices are not speaking with residents, and it's very unfair. I was standing here, a resident came to pay their water bill, and it was raining, and the way they give them the information, they had to walk across the street, and the person was very, very pleased. But I've seen it, so something has to be done. I don't know if PIO, whatever that we're doing. So these are things that are not where it needs to be. The streets, I know, Ms. Brown, I have a list that they email me, and I don't want to do like Scott, because I know he does such a good job of keeping up with them. I'm trying to, as much as they give me, and trying to solve as much as I can. So we did talk about the services that the residents are getting, but this trust at City Hall, we got to do something to bring it back, because it starts with us, et cetera, and your departments, how you run your shop, that's your particular business. I don't too much. If you ask me for advice, I'll do whatever that I need to do, but those are your shops. You do what you need to do with them, but they have to be where the residents are not, emails are not being answered, and I could give you specific phone calls. It's just they feel like some of the directors are really disregarding their concerns, and not only residents, because it's majority of that I'm getting from business folks. So again, the residents in the businesses. So please, next year, it's January 13th. We need to do a much. I'm not ever gonna be 110% happy, but at least if I'm 80%, I know that the residents are getting what they need to get. Then I'm okay with that. So please see what we could do to be more resident and business open and friendly city. And with that being said, I want to wish y'all a happy and a safe. And these last thing I heard from my colleague earlier, these rush things to the items last minute. I'm not really always too happy with those. Like, we have to do this, back against things. Something occurred at a meeting earlier, which I really, really do not like. You wasn't there when an item was presented at another board meeting, but I was never, and that is something that we could have had a conversation over the phone with, that you are making a recommendation of somebody's salary to go up, and and that's basically it. We find out here that, that was that, and I don't like these type of things. It was the CRA. So, okay, so I did not know that. And then we talked about it, the agenda, even if I'm not here. So those are my laundry lists, and I'm just saying, please, let's do what we do. Talk to your directors, talk to your folks. Some of your folks, I don't even know some of the directors that you have brought on. So I'm not happy with that. I'm saying changes, whatever, because if somebody asks me something, that's why I'm constantly either asking you or having someone to follow, or I ask the deputy or sometime Ms. Colebrook to do. So that's all I'm saying. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I just want to thank all staff and all the families and the kids that participated in our tree lighting ceremony. I also would like to remind you, as was announced earlier, that we're having a holiday concert. The mayor and myself are having a holiday concert December 23rd. So bring out your families and friends and kids. It should be very fun. I'd like to also thank the residents in District 3 that actually volunteered to help a senior that was really in need, and we did some cleanup today. I'd like to especially thank Beverly Hilton for bringing it to our attention and rallying the people to help this senior. So thank you, Beverly, and all of the other volunteers that helped. Also, this Sunday, we're having a grand opening for the Van Allen project. So if you remember that we have a repetitive loss site in my district, which is 901 Northeast 144th Street. So this, on Sunday, you get an opportunity to see how it has been revamped and in a very nice way. So just come out. There's going to be food. There's going to be music. Come out and see what is being done to the land over there. Also, I'd like to say happy belated, happy birthday, and future birthday to my colleagues on the dais. Vanessa Joseph had a birthday last week, I think. Alex Ezume had a birthday, and Scott Galvin is going to have his birthday by the time we come back. So
And
happy birthday to all of you.
I promise I'm not going to have this year's birthday in the ICU.
Happy birthday, and I'd like to wish all of the residents of North Miami happy holiday, Merry Christmas, Joyeux Noël, Feliz Navidad, Bonne Année, Happy New Year, and see you next year.
I'll be 26 this year, yes.
Madam Clerk.
All right. Good evening, everyone. So just a reminder, we don't clap. We use spirit fingers over here, all right?
I call them jazz hands.
Jazz hands, right?
Sorry.
Just to keep everything flowing smoothly. First, to start my report, I'd like to acknowledge the students that are present. The fact that you're here is very important because civic engagement is extremely important in our community. So I just really want to acknowledge you all for being here, for sitting through the entire meeting, not really being on your phones the entire meeting. And, you know, I encourage you to come back to our city meetings and encourage your friends to come by too, because it's really important that you know what's going on. So congratulations and thank you for being here. Just a quick update for residents, for people who have applied to serve on a board, and for mayor and council, we are going to be proceeding with board appointments next year. I have sat down with city management to go over, you know, what we're looking at in terms of the boards, who is serving as liaisons, and trying to kind of really organize ourselves. And so we'll be ready to proceed at the upcoming meetings. And of course, happy holidays to everybody. This is a time when we come together with our family, our friends, the people closest to us. And we really come together in the spirit of celebration. But we also need to acknowledge that it's not just about celebrating ourselves, not celebrating what we have, the things that we want to get. It's not really about receiving. A lot of the holiday spirit is about giving. And so I encourage you to find ways to give to somebody in need. You may not be able to give a bike, you may not be able to get a gift for the angel tree, but you have a coat that you don't use anymore and somebody may need. It is cold outside. I want us to remember things like this. And just so everybody knows, I actually will not be here Saturday the 14th through Saturday the 21st because I will be out honoring the holidays in service to another community in need. And so you won't find me in the office, but I am always available by email and by text. I wish everyone a happy holidays, and thank you so much for wrapping up this year with us.
Thank you very much.
Oh, actually, one more thing. A great gift is a passport. So please give the gift of a passport to your loved ones. If you need to get a passport or renew it, please feel free to stop by the city clerk's office, and we would be more than happy to assist you with that. It's, you know, new year, new passport, all right? Thank you.
Thank you. I know it's state championship.
Good luck, yeah.
Who else? And city attorney and.
No report, man.
And a quick question, Mr. City Attorney, and privately we met about the storage that we discussed, and when you said it's at the planning commission, and right now, right? You remember we
That would be a
had
question for
discussion. We had discussion about regulation for storage throughout the city. I don't know if people are still serious about it, because I just want to make sure that everybody's on board with that, or we have to just let it go instead of wasting your time and go and talk about
let me
it. I
address
just
it.
want to make sure.
Let me address it procedurally.
Yeah.
We were requested to do the item. The item's was drafted. It's gone to planning commission. It's a ordinance, correct?
Correct.
So it'll come back before the council. If you don't, at that moment, you don't want to consider it, then I would assume you'd vote it down on first reading, and we'd be
It's
done
better
with the
to
item.
revisit. Okay, before
I mean,
we
if you
move
want
forward, if we
well, we-
revisit, because we don't want to waste your time
Well,
and you work
procedurally,
on
I have
something
to-
and okay.
Procedurally, I have to bring it at
Okay.
this point, and I can't poll you guys, so we'd have to bring it before you. But we'll continue our discussions, getting feedback on. On
Another
on where you are.
another item we were discussing, Mr. City Attorney, is the local preference. Can you add some stronger language in our legislation and about the local preference? For example, and the person need to be in business in North Miami for a year, or come up with other legislation. They need their BTR, their CUP. If you can visit other cities to see what they have in the local preference, so we can implement that, because what we need when we come up with the local preference policies, to making sure we have businesses, we reward the business in the city. We don't want just people to come and take advantage of it. We want to reward that, and we want to making sure that people taking advantage of it really use it to create jobs or new location throughout the city. I don't know if you can revisit either the county or other cities, and to bring some additional language in our local preference policy.
Yes, sir. You told me that earlier today, so we'll be working on an ordinance to bring back to you.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Again, happy holidays to everyone. Acknowledge the staff for the end of the year. It's been a long year. We've gone through a lot of stuff, and looking forward to meeting new opportunities here in the new year. So, thank you.
Deputy, do you have any report?
Move to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn made by Councilman Galvin, seconded by Councilwoman Estimé Irvin. All in favor? All opposed? Adjourned.